Good morning, or whatever the hell it is. Welcome to the housing revolution. This is the fourth and final video on feudalism. If you haven't seen the first three feudalism videos, the Founding Fathers' Big Conflict, Thomas Jefferson, and Abraham Lincoln, I suggest you watch them first. So let's go. This far, we've had some historical perspective on feudalism. We've seen why the Founding Fathers detested feudalism and what their vision for a feudalism-free country looked like. We also learned about the conflict between that vision and protecting their own property. We saw that James Madison at the Constitutional Convention wanted strong property protections, but only for those portions of land with which the owner was incorporating his labor and improvements. We saw that in the end, this qualifier was dropped and the strong property protections were given all landowners without any regard for how they were or weren't using their land. We also saw that no limits were put in place as to how much land an individual could own. We saw that Thomas Jefferson saw the potential that a new feudalism could one day take root and proposed a geometric property tax that would have taken the economic incentive out of hoarding land, in effect limiting the amount of land an individual could own. We then saw that 80 years later, Abraham Lincoln witnessed the new feudalism taking root, and he said that no one should be able to own more land than one needed for one's home, sustenance, and legitimate business, and that no business should be able to monopolize the land. Unfortunately, the new feudalism, unwittingly enabled by the Founding Fathers, has grown and grown, slowly but steadily dismantling the vision the Founding Fathers had for their new country. As we've shifted from an agrarian economy to the complex economy we have today, the new feudalism has also grown more complex. Its arena is no longer limited to fertile fields. It now includes the land housing is located on, the land businesses are located on, as well as housing and business structures. Fruits of workers' labors are taken first by the landlords who own the land and structures that businesses operate on, and then taken again by the landlords that the laborers rent housing from, by the sellers of land and housing who are selling these vital necessities at inflated and hyperinflated prices, as well as the mortgage banks loaning workers the funds to buy homes at inflated and hyperinflated prices, as well as Wall Street and everyone else who has managed to get in on the financialization of real estate. The self-determination and incentivization that were central goals of the Founding Fathers' tenet of private land ownership disappeared as private citizens and corporations became the new feudal lords. That incentive of being able to keep the fruits of one's own labors was replaced with the incentive to make money without producing anything via real estate investments in land and pre-owned, already built housing structures. The more real estate investors got into the market, the more demand for land, housing structures, and commercial structures grew, driving housing and business costs up. As the decades have gone by, the fruits of workers' labors have increasingly been siphoned off by the new feudal lords, taking the spirit of the country with it. The profits real estate investors make are typically passive, meaning the income received requires little effort. It is also non-productive, as investors did not produce the land they made profits from, and typically did not produce the structures they rent out or sell at a profit. Income derived from other types of investment, such as from funding a company that is eventually producing products or providing legitimate services, would be passive yet productive. Productive investment income typically results in goods and or services that benefit our society in some way. On the contrary, non-productive real estate investment does not result in goods or services that benefit society. Its contribution to society is actually negative for several reasons. It deprives people of the housing security and the building of equity that come with home ownership. It leads to the oppression of workers that the Founding Fathers were trying to avoid. It destroys the incentives system the Founding Fathers felt come with land ownership. and it breeds the resentment workers harbor toward landlords that the Founding Fathers felt was inevitable in a feudal system. It has led to our failure to meet the real here and now needs of our housing market by inducing a massive shortage of the necessity-based, income-appropriate housing the market is in dire need of, and instead has saturated us with an inappropriate oversupply of luxury housing, forcing a large percentage of the population to choose between financially overextending themselves just to have shelter or become homeless. It inflates land and housing costs and often commercial real estate costs, with the rental and sales profits often made from inflationary sources investors put no effort into, such as rises in local demand due to population growth, increases in nearby job opportunities, the building of local infrastructure, etc. These inflationary sources increase profits for investors despite no increased labor or production from them, while simultaneously increasing the financial burden on their renters and those they sell real estate to. It all begs the question, why are we rewarding real estate investment? Why are we rewarding those who aren't producing or putting time and energy into providing legitimate services, who are merely making money off of laws of supply and demand and inflation? Why are we rewarding means of passive income that have a negative impact on society when we should only be rewarding and encouraging passive investments that have a positive impact on society? As land and housing are vital necessities, the leverage landlords hold over those in need of land and housing, and often those in need of commercial property, is powerful. And when combined with high demand and or low supply, can command high profit rents and sales prices for investors, creating equally big financial burdens for tenants and buyers. Getting rid of the new feudalism is requisite if we are to effectively, comprehensively, and permanently fix our affordable housing crisis. We could have all of the housing supply in the world, but if we continue to allow that supply to be hoarded by investors, big or small, from the multi-property investors to the single property investors, we will still have affordability problems. And as we will talk about more, getting more money into the hands of renters and buyers via increased wages, tax credits, or proposed UBI is ultimately ineffective, serving only to further inflate land and housing costs as investors, armed with the leverage that comes with controlling a vital necessity, simply raise their rents and sales prices accordingly. In these cases, the extra money going to workers is in and out of their pockets and into the pockets of those controlling housing within a couple of years. And as we've seen over and over again, we are soon back at the table begging for another wage increase, again facilitating the massive transfer of wealth going from those employees and employers in the real economy to those who are doing little more than just sitting around on their assets. If we are to effectively, comprehensively, and permanently fix our housing debacle so that you, your kids, your grandkids, etc., will be able to have affordable housing, it is imperative we get rid of the new feudalism. But that, my friends, is only part of the problem. If there's one thing James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, and Abraham Lincoln could not have imagined, it's the hyperinflation of land and housing costs that have resulted from our unlimited feudalistic property laws working in concert with our hyperinflationary mortgage system. So, on tap for next week, we're going to go over some basic econ and focus on our hyperinflationary mortgage system. It's going to be an empowering week, so show up ready to learn some new concepts. All right, that's it. So lick the hype button, subscribe, and always make sure you hit the No Boxtrinations tab because it really helps with the YouTube. All right, over and out.